As I was rocking our little baby to sleep at night, he was texting another woman, "I miss you. You are my princess." In that moment, something inside me broke forever. This is the story of a woman who faced betrayal during the most vulnerable time of her life, and yet managed to endure. At first, he truly seemed to try to help. He'd bring me water bottles, approach me when I was rocking our daughter, and sometimes even cook a simple dinner. I believed he felt this new stage of life as intensely as I did. But with each week, things changed. His gaze grew colder. He rarely held the baby, as if afraid of her fragility or just unwilling to exert the effort. He started staying late at work, citing an influx of projects. And when he returned home, he looked irritated and exhausted, even though, seemingly, I was the one who should have felt that way. One time, when I was once again complaining about sleeplessness, he snapped, "All you do is sit at home. I work to support the family, and you constantly look worn out." His words cut me to the quick. I tried to explain that the baby took all my energy, that I didn't even have time for myself. But he merely shrugged. Then came the moment I remember like a knife in the back. He looked down on me and said, "You've changed. You're not the woman you used to be. You've gained weight. You stopped taking care of yourself." I froze. The words caught in my throat. Yes, my body looked different after childbirth, and I knew it. But wasn't that natural? Shouldn't he have been the one to support me when I was dedicating all my strength to our daughter every single day? I stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding a feeding bottle, feeling something crack in my chest. I tried to smile, to answer calmly, but tears were already blurring my vision. From then on, I noticed more small jabs. "You look tired. Maybe you could go to the gym when you find the time. You completely forgot you are a woman." His indifference and criticism became far worse than any fatigue from sleepless nights. Physical pain could be endured, but this emptiness in the soul, no. I tried to convince myself that his words were just tiredness, that he, too, was going through a tough period of adjustment. But something about his behavior began to worry me more and more. He started looking at his phone differently. Before, he'd leave it anywhere, on the kitchen table, the sofa, even in the bathroom. Now, he always kept it close. If I picked up his phone to check the time or reply to a relative, he reacted sharply. "Why are you invading my privacy? Everyone needs personal space." He had never said anything like that before. I noticed him staying late at work more often. Sometimes he'd return late at night, as if genuinely working overtime. But his shirt smelled not of the office, but of a light woman's perfume, not mine. I asked directly, "Where were you for so long?" He offered a tired smile and replied, "My colleagues and I were closing a project. It's better for you if I earn more." His words sounded convincing, but inside, an uneasy feeling persisted. At night, while feeding our daughter, thoughts swirled in my head. What if he really found someone else? What if I'm no longer the only one for him? I quickly dismissed these thoughts. I couldn't believe he was capable of it. We waited for this child together. We dreamt of our future. Yet, the small details continued to torment me. The new password on his phone. His sudden mood swings. The distant look when he sat at the table. The coldness in bed, where he'd turn away without even touching me. I started feeling like a stranger in my own home. And the scariest thing was not knowing whether it was my imagination or the truth about to destroy my life. It happened on a perfectly ordinary evening. Our daughter woke up again in the middle of the night, crying as usual. I got up, wrapped in a warm robe, took her into my arms, and began to quietly rock her. My husband didn't even stir. He lay next to me, fast asleep, as if the crying child had nothing to do with him. I walked around the room, pressing the tiny body to my chest, and the same thoughts kept circling: his coldness, indifference, late returns. When my daughter finally fell asleep, I put her in her crib. Sleep wouldn't come. I quietly picked up his phone, which he had carelessly left on the nightstand. My heart pounded so loud I was afraid it would wake him. I hesitated. What if I'm wrong? What if there's nothing there? But some force compelled me to swipe the screen. The password was different. Not the one from before. I had to try several times until I found the right one, a date that was not our anniversary, but a completely different one. When the screen unlocked, my hands trembled. I immediately saw the messages. A chat with a woman, an icon with a bright smile, was at the top. The very first message cut into my eyes. Thank you for last night. You are so gentle. Too bad you couldn't stay the night. My breath caught. I reread those lines again and again, hoping it was some mistake. But it got worse. When will we meet again? I miss you. Your little princess is waiting for you. He called another woman his princess while I stood by the crib with our daughter in my arms. The world shattered around me. The only thought was a silent scream. How could he? I dropped the phone, pressing my hands to my face so as not to scream and wake the baby. Tears streamed down my face. This was the moment everything broke. Not just our marriage, I broke inside. I sat on the floor, in the dark, with the phone that felt like cold proof of my naivety. I reread those messages repeatedly, as if punishing myself. Every word struck my chest harder than a fist. Gentle. I miss you, princess. I saw those lines even after wiping them from the screen. They were etched into my mind, my soul, my heart. I looked over at the crib where my daughter was peacefully sleeping. She was so tiny, so defenseless. I remembered praying in the delivery room for her to be born healthy. I recalled every minute of pain, every tear, every moment of fear, and I realized he betrayed not just me. He betrayed her. Because while I was rocking the baby at night, he was embracing another. While I was learning to feed her, forgetting my own needs, he was giving tenderness to the one who never felt the pain of childbirth or sleepless nights. A wave of hatred, despair, and helplessness surged through me. I wanted to scream, wake him up, and throw those messages in his face. But I didn't. I just clenched my fists and bit my lips until they bled to stop myself from yelling. Questions spun in my head. Was I such a bad wife? Was my love not enough? Didn't he see how hard I was trying, how I gave every last bit of myself? And then came the even more terrifying realization. He hadn't even hidden everything meticulously. That meant he didn't care if I found out. He had already decided that my feelings were worthless. I sat there, feeling my soul crack. Tears flowed uncontrollably. This was not just a husband's betrayal. It was a betrayal of family, home, and our shared dreams. It was the betrayal of a woman who had just given life for a new person. That night I understood, the happiness I believed in was an illusion. And all that remained was the pain tearing me apart from the inside. In the morning, I woke up exhausted, having barely slept all night. My daughter was sleeping in her bassinet, and I sat on the bed, looking at my husband. He was sprawled on the pillow, calm, satisfied, as if his life was flawless. Everything inside me was boiling. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Tell me the truth, I began quietly, barely holding back the tremor in my voice. He opened his eyes, looking at me with surprise. What are you talking about? Is there someone else? I asked directly. My voice broke, but there was so much pain in my eyes that he couldn't ignore it. He looked away. I saw his jaw clench, his fingers tighten on the blanket. You're making things up, he mumbled. It's just your post-pregnancy hormones. Don't you dare say that, I sharply interrupted. I know everything. I saw the messages. His face changed. He paused for a moment, then sighed and said, almost calmly, fine. Yes, there is. I felt the ground disappear beneath me. Even with the evidence, I had hoped until the very last moment that he would deny it all, that he would say, it's a joke, a colleague, a misunderstanding. But he didn't even try to excuse himself. How could you? I whispered, feeling my eyes fill with tears again. He merely shrugged. I'm lacking attention. You're completely focused on the baby. You forgot you have a husband. His words cut sharper than a blade. Lacking attention? I felt rage flare up in my chest. I just gave birth to your child. I don't sleep at night. I can barely stand during the day, and you decided to look for attention elsewhere. He didn't reply. He just turned away and remained silent. I could see no remorse in his eyes, only coldness and self-justification. And then I understood, we were no longer on the same side. In that moment, he stopped being my husband. He became a stranger. After that conversation, something definitively snapped inside me. For a few more days, I tried to keep it together, to convince myself that it was all a dream, a terrible nightmare from which I would soon wake up. But reality was even worse. He continued to act indifferently. He didn't apologize, didn't try to explain or justify. On the contrary, he walked around the house as if nothing had happened. He'd play the role of a father for a few minutes, hold our daughter, take a photo, post it on social media, and then disappear again, as if he wasn't really there. I sat in the dark at night and wondered, what now? Could I live beside him, knowing his heart and body belonged to another? Did I want my daughter to grow up seeing a betrayer father for whom attention was more valuable than his family? The answer came painfully but clearly, no. One evening, when he was gone again, working late, I took his travel bag and started packing his belongings. Every shirt, every pair of socks felt like fragments of a ruined life. My hands trembled, but I kept going. I knew if I didn't do this now, I would remain a victim. And he would continue to come and go, lie, and devalue me even further. And I would turn into a shadow of the woman I once was. When he returned, I was waiting for him at the doorstep. Our daughter was asleep in the other room. His suitcase stood in the hall. What is this? He stopped, looking at me with disbelief. I took a deep breath and said, these are your things. Take them and leave. He initially laughed, thinking it was just another emotional scene. Are you serious? Over a small affair? You're overreacting. This is not an affair. This is betrayal. It's a stab in the back. I will not allow my daughter to see her mother suffer because of a man who doesn't value her. My words silenced him. I saw anger, not remorse, in his eyes. He picked up the bag, yanked the zipper shut, and muttered, "You'll regret this." I didn't reply. I just closed the door behind him. And for the first time in a long while, I felt, yes, I am hurting, but there is strength in this pain. I was left alone with my daughter. Lonely, but free. The first weeks without him were terrifying. I was alone with a small daughter, and it felt like the world had collapsed onto my shoulders. There wasn't enough money, strength, or support. I cried at night, but every morning I got up for her sake. Slowly, I started feeling stronger. My mother and sister helped, and friends supported me with kind words. My daughter gave me the most strength. Her smile made me forget the fatigue. I learned to manage everything myself, building a new life step by step. And one day I realized, yes, I was hurt, but I didn't break. I became a different woman, a strong woman, and a loving mother. A few months passed. Life gradually settled down. I had learned to live without him. I worked remotely to support myself and my daughter. I got used to not having a man's shoulder beside me, yet there was a certain freedom in it. I felt like I was starting to breathe again. And that's when he reappeared. It was a Sunday evening. I was returning from a walk with my daughter, stroller, bags of groceries, a slight tiredness. Suddenly, I saw him near our house. He stood there with a bouquet of roses, looking depressed and determined at the same time. "Hi," he said softly when I stopped. "Can we talk?" My heart squeezed. Part of me wanted to turn and leave. Another demanded to hear what he would say. We went inside. I put our daughter in her crib, while he stood in the middle of the room, holding that bouquet like a shield. His eyes were red, as if he hadn't slept for days. "I made a mistake," he began. "The biggest one of my life. I was a fool. I thought I was missing something, but I actually had everything. I had you. I had our daughter. And I ruined it." I stayed silent. His words cut painfully because they were too late. "I missed you both. I can't live without you. Give me another chance. I'll fix everything." His voice trembled, sounding sincere. But I saw deeper. I saw not desperation for the lost family, but fear of being alone. I looked at him and felt only emptiness. In the past, I might have melted at his words, hugged him, forgiven him. But now that trust was gone. "You're asking for a second chance," I said quietly. "But I am no longer the woman you betrayed. Something in me died that night when I read your messages. And what died won't be reborn." He buried his face in his hands, sinking onto a chair. Please. I'm ready to start over. I shook my head. You can only start over when the heart is whole. Mine is broken. And I won't give it to you again just for you to trample on it a second time. Silence hung between us. Only our daughter's soft breathing could be heard from the next room. You can always see her, I added. But there is no place for you in my life anymore. He said nothing more. He just placed the bouquet on the table and left, quietly closing the door behind him. I went to my daughter, touched her little hand, and felt a profound peace wash over my chest. Yes, I was left without a husband. But I saved myself. And now I knew for sure, we can do anything. Now, looking back, I realized that betrayal after childbirth is a double blow. It is a betrayal not only of the woman, but of the whole family, the child, and our future. It's a moment when your heart shatters into pieces, and it feels like it will never heal. But even in the deepest darkness, there is light. For me, that light became my daughter. Her smile, her laughter, her tiny hands hugging me, gave me the strength to keep living. I learned to value myself, love myself, and choose a life where I am respected. I want to tell everyone who hears this story, no one deserves betrayal, no one should tolerate humiliation, even for the sake of family. It's better to be alone than beside someone who does not value your efforts, your love, or your sacrifice. I chose a new path, a path of love, strength, and dignity. My daughter and I began our new life, and every day I am convinced, happiness is possible even after the greatest disappointment. Remember, your worth is not measured by how someone treats you. You are worthy of respect, happiness, and true love. Sometimes, for that to happen, you must close the door on the past and bravely step forward.